Well, since the last video, I've gone ahead and added the knobs here on the scope on both sides in the same way I did the top one here. Now let's think about creating that tube or wire around the base of the scope. Let me go back to that side view and let's take a look at it. So here it is. It's got this piece here. I think we need to create that first, and then we can use the path tool to create this tubing here. So I'll just click here to place the 3D cursor there and then Shift A and create a cube. Let's now scale it down. I'll tab into edit mode, and then in vertex mode I'll just use the B key to grab these points here and move them in line with the reference image. Something like that, let's say. And I'll also need to add an edge loop here and maybe grab this face and extrude and move that out and down here. I'll also scale in the Z to make that a little bit smaller. Let's now tumble around and see how we've done. I'll bring the other pieces back with layers 1 and 2. It looks like we could bring it in the X some. Let's zoom in over here and see how wide it is. Yeah, that's about right, I think. I will get rid of this face right here on top. We don't need that. And then if we go back to the side view, I'll go ahead and border select these points and pull these up into there. And now we could go ahead and add a subdivision surface modifier here and smooth it over here. And then add a few edge loops to get it to look a little bit more like this. So I'll maybe add 3 edge loops and scale them out in the X. Alright, so now let's think about that wire around here. I'll go to layer 3 and hit the 3 key. So what let's do is click here once again to bring the cursor there and Shift A, and this time let's create a curve and let's choose a path. Now we can't really see anything here because it's turned the wrong way. If we tumble around we can see that it's turned, or it's aligned to the x-axis. So let's spin it around with RZ90 and then go back to our side view, and now we can scale it down quite a bit, like about this. Maybe move it a bit and rotate it a hair. Now I'll go ahead and take this piece here and move it over to layer 2. I'll just press M and 2. And now if we tab into edit mode, we can see the points of our path. But we should probably pull it out to the side of the scope mount here before we begin doing anything else. So let's bring that back, and I'll pull it out in the X to about right here. And maybe rotate it in the Z just a bit to kind of angle it like this. Just a little bit. Now we also want it to go around to the other side. I'm assuming that it curls around to the other side as well. So let's go ahead and mirror it. But before we do that, we should move the pivot point into the center of the grid. So I'll come over here to set origin and move the origin to the 3D cursor. And then I'll add a mirror modifier over here. There we go, and now we can see it. We should be able to see it over on the other side, but we don't. So the reason why that is because we've rotated the object. So what let's do is press Control A and apply the rotation and scale. And now there it is there. All right. We should also turn on clipping so that as we bring these points together, they merge together at either end. So I'll tab into edit mode and select this one point here, and now I'll just hit E and drag in the X to extrude this point, and as it comes together it meets with the other side. So there's that. Now let's do the same thing back here. I'll select this one point, hit E, and drag over until it hits there. Now it looks like we need a slightly sharper curve here. So what let's do is select this point, and then press the W key to bring up the Specials menu, and let's choose Subdivide. And that adds a point between those 2 points and sharpens the curve just a little bit. Alright, so now we have the basic path around there. Let's now add some tubing to it. So I'll go over here to the Paths panel. Let's change the fill from half to full. And I'll come down here and bring the resolution up to maybe 3. And I'll click and drag in the depth. And there we go. There's our tube. So maybe something about like this. Let's give that a try. It looks maybe it's a little bit too big. Let me come over here to the depth and I'll just type in 6 centimeters. Let's see how that works. And I'll go into the side view here in layer 3 just to make sure we've got it all lined up. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I'll bring back the other layers. And there we go. So now we've got our scope and a bit of detail on that. Alright, so in the next video, we'll turn our attention to this area down here at the bottom of the gun, right down here. So that's coming up next.